Well, hello and welcome. Welcome one, welcome all. I'm your host, Random Randy, and welcome to the Red Thread Podcast. If you're checking this out on YouTube, welcome to Random Fracts. And as we are all random seeming fractals in an seemingly unending universe, I figured it a fitting name, and that we are all bound by the red thread of destiny or fate or knowledge, however you'd like to look at that thread. Some might call it the silver cord. Either way, I think it applies to just about everything that we see in the world today. Now, what are we going to look into today, everybody? Well, see, now that I've got all of your attention looking at the shape of things, why things are, even if it's in the kind of premise of Crater Earth the last few episodes, right? That gentleman brings up some interesting concepts having to do with time. Now, I have found an interesting insight in a video from 1965. And if you're a flat earther, you might know this video. This video is a scientist claiming that the moon is plasma, right? We've seen this one. Now, there's some little pieces of information within that video that I'm going to share with you today and bring a little bit of light to, okay? So if you find yourself struggling to kind of grasp the concept, it's fine. Like, listen, this is a deep, anything involving time is a little tricky to dig into, right? So we're gonna do our best today, and we're gonna work on that. But I want to bring these ideas forward. I feel like society has basically created an opportunity to be afraid or reserved about sharing information with others. We either are programmed to believe everyone else is an idiot or everyone else is smarter than us or a mixture of both. So I'm attempting to step through that shadow today and just go with it, man. And it seems I've got some good showings the last few episodes. So I'm hoping to reach all of you who are dedicated red threaders. And we're going to stitch some stuff together here. All right. So it's going to get weird a little bit. If you're not familiar with mathematics and time, it might be a little tricky to understand. But I'm going to do my best to bring it to you nonetheless. Okay. So we're going to jump right in here. Let's go ahead. And I apologize for any of the clicking. My other mouse is at the shop. So we're going to pop this up here. Let's get our sound going. We're going to need that sound. And let's just get to cooking here. All right. You guys might know this video, right? The hopefully I don't get flagged for copyright because it's ABC or Australian Broadcasting. So maybe I should do something like this real quick. And I appreciate y'all bearing with me here. But yeah, this concept, we'll go ahead and tell you what the name of the concept is and all that sort of thing. It's like a time reversibility issue. So, and he brings it up in this video, which is why I want to point it out. So we'll go through the 10-minute video. We'll watch it. We'll stop. We'll listen to what the gentleman's saying. Okay, and this is just in case we happen to be diving into some copy charted territory. So that being said, let's jump back over to the video. Okay, now. So you're going to want to pay attention to exactly what this gentleman is saying. And I'm glad that it's got the captions.
Apparently unchanging, and yet it is part of my new conception about the nature of the world at this same sea. Many times in the past history of our Earth has rolled over the surfaces of the land masses, sweeping away all life and vegetation, and eventually returning again to its former bed. This is
okay. So, I mean, right out of the gate here, what did he just say? The history of Earth has rolled over the surface and essentially wiped everything out, right? So he's talking about what we're coming to consider in the Tartaria and hidden history circles as a reset. Okay. So these ideas, everybody, they're not just silly, banter. This stuff is deep, super deep. All right. And even if this guy is a paid actor on this ABC company, right? And even if this is meant to direct us into arguing with each other, right? Oh no, the moon's plasma. Oh no, the moon is a rock, right? So all that stuff aside, there's some details in here that I've never heard brought up before. That being one of them, the resets, the breathing in and out through history of time, of the earth, right? So
The part of the biblical theory of the flood and the theory of people of other races.
Oh yes, this actual event, the last one, is recorded in all the sacred scriptures of all the old civilizations, from the Hindus to the Bible.
Mr. Foster, before we go on with that, you've made a number of...
curious about the way that he sighed right there at the end, as though he was understanding and knowing that these scriptures are heavily curated, right?
predictions, scientific predictions, which you claim have come true. Now, what are those predictions, and how do you make this claim?
Well, they're all based on the new notion that the physical invariance principles of contemporary science are
Okay, physical invariance principles of contemporary science.
invalid. And I stated this first in a manuscript reviewed in Australia in 1954. And the validity of this statement was confirmed finally.
Okay, this key moment here. Okay, finally last year at Princeton, when the principle of time reversal invariance. Now, I've never heard anybody speak about this. What the heck is this, right? What is time reversal invariance? So I decided I'm going to take a look. Okay, and it gets really interesting. You know, all of us that are paying attention and are aware are wondering why things play out in a certain fashion. Why is it scripted? First of all. Secondly, why are things happening in a pattern of motion that seems to repeat itself over and over again? This everybody is the reason. Okay, this right here outlines why history is repeating itself. Why do we have to go through these ebbs and flows through time? This concept, everybody, is so key, so key. I mean, it's so key that I ask you from the bottom of my heart to ask people about this. Throw this information out there somewhere, because, you know, through all of the Tartaria talk, the hidden history, the this, the that, the resets, people aren't really considering time and the mathematics of the equations and what's actually going on. And it's you know, we've got, okay, quantum physics, things are there, they're not, they're both, right? Like, so we've got a lot of these concepts being loosely thrown around in the world with really no basis for understanding. Okay, and this is one of those. Time is one of those things that we're just pushed to understand. Time is linear, there's no going back, it's only forward. You know, there's no way to start over, right? That's the thing. Now, and looking into God Give Lomstay's videos, I think that's how you say it, and if not, I apologize to the gentleman there. But, you know, looking at this stuff, you know, there are folks out there that have this grasp of time and this idea of what's really going on here, okay, and how complex and complicated and absolutely amazingly beautiful it is. Now, you might not think the current narrative or paradigm or ebb or flow of the world around you is beautiful, and that's your own opinion, okay? I happen to be able to see the nuance, the small little dainty things that are just freaking glorious, like this concept right here, time reversibility. And he says invariable, right? At the end, invariance. So that means it doesn't, there's no going away from this. The time reversal, there's no variance. It happens. It happens regularly in a certain pattern. It doesn't vary. There is an invariance. Okay. So, getting back to it, I'm just pumped up. I'm pumped up about this concept, about catching that one line that he said and looking into this. And the beautiful part about it is this makes sense. It makes sense. Okay. And everything in the narrative in the world that we're handed, that we're just gifted, right, is garbage. It's just muck. Okay. It's mud flood. It's freaking sitting underneath 6 feet of earth, you know, the truth, right? Now, this is one of those truths. This is one of the things that are hidden. And, you know, some might say, well, you're really not supposed to present the deeper information to the general public, right? But that time has passed. Okay, that time has passed, and the folks that I'm speaking with right now, y'all aren't exactly the general public, are you? So I figure that this, man, this to me, this just tells me why the script has to be played, why the mass mind has to be manipulated, everything. Okay. And it all has to do with time reversibility. If you have your concepts laid in and realized in a certain pattern, okay, and remember, everything is mathematical, everything in the world can be reduced to mathematics. Okay. So, time reversibility is a mathematical, or get this, physical process. A mathematical or physical process is time reversible if the dynamics of the process remain well defined within the sequence of time states, or when the sequence of time states is reversed. Okay. Do you ever wonder why there's the occult reversal kind of ritual that they do? Okay, they're giving homage to these concepts, everybody. Okay, and it's a beautiful thing. Some might say, no, you're just one of them, Randy. Well, listen, if you're thinking that there's an us and them, then listen, you're not ready for this information, right? So just go on your merry way. Now, if you do understand that the only darkness is inside of you, and that's what you're here to overcome, right? Your demons are within. Okay, like the demons you see outside of you are a reflection of the way that you are interpreting yourself. And that sounds woo woo and that sounds new age to a lot of people. And I get it. I really do. I really get it. It's not everybody's cup of tea to be at peace and happy and full of self-respect and just joyous, even the minutia becoming joyously abundant around you. Like, that's not for everybody. Let's just face it. A lot of people want to live in fear. A lot of people want to be brought down by the weather, the politics, etc. Now, I think I can safely say that all of the stuff that people are put through and the way that that ebbs and flows from golden age to dark age to golden age to dark age, okay, and back again, we always wonder, well, why can't we stay in the golden age, right? The idea is at some point, you will come to an impasse where this stream will no longer flow. Okay. And when that stream no longer flows, what you have is an end time, or I don't know. I hesitate to use the word Armageddon or apocalypse or any of these things because they don't actually fit what a legitimate end is, right? A ceasing. Okay. Now, while I happen to believe that the world doesn't cease, I think that there could be some form of a cataclysm. And it may be possible that the cataclysms itself that we know of are actually the process of time reversal that changes the world we live in. And if you follow the Crater Earth guy's videos and you look and see how he talks about water at the bottom, water, mud, stone. And as time shifts, these states of matter change. Now, that would also mean that anything above water, like plasma and different things, would change also, possibly intermingling. Now, I happen to think that that is a process of the time reversal itself. So, why we see fossilized things that seem millions of years old is this is going to sound crazy. It's partially because these are also a future. Okay. These ruins, these things, these are also a future because we, my friends, are not in the future of what we see as Tartaria. We are in the past, and we are on the verge of recreating a golden age to fit into this ebb and flow so that that stream can be reversed. Okay. And why would it need to be reversed? Because you would want to play it again differently, right? You would want to reset, change a few things, and see how it goes and collect that data, right? If you look at the Anunnaki narrative, there's a lot of that. Oh, well, we're just here collecting data and this and that. So they minimalize these things to keep you from appreciating the true beauty of what's going on here. All right. So a deterministic process is time reversible if the time reversed process satisfies the same dynamic equations as the original process. What does that mean? In other words, the equations are invariant or symmetrical under a change in the sign of time. Okay, so why is it that astrologers know that in a certain star sign, certain things are going to happen? This right here is why. Okay, so I mean, I can't compel you to care enough about this, but I can compel you just to notice it, just to notice that there's never going to be an end, right? Like they've got us believing, they've got a lot of people believing that it's just going to end like the dinosaurs ended. Okay, it seems to me that there was a time when people and dinosaurs lived alongside. A time, would it be in the past? That I can't tell you. Now, it could appear to us as though it's in the past, but actually be a future, right? So I know it's weird, it's flippy, it's very quantum in its essence, but this just makes sense, everyone. So a stochastic process is reversible if the statistical properties of the process are the same as the statistical properties for time reversed data from the same process. So you ask yourself, why do we live in an upside down world right now? Right? Why do we live in a world where nothing makes sense? Everything is upside down. Everything is backwards as all can be. Is it possible that we are in the midst of a reversal? Okay. Right? What we are seeing as ruins that have turned to stone that used to be, we say millions of years old, they're fossilized and things, right? Now, this is where I probably lose some people, okay? If you think about where we're headed, all right, and just humor this thought, okay? You think about where we're heading, you see that certain things like electroculture, free energy coming back about again, okay? It is my opinion, and it can be, yours can be different, that we are not going into an end time, that we are going into what can be considered a golden age, and that is why so much energy is being put into making you believe otherwise. Okay? Because guess what? When you sit back and turn that crap off and take care of yourself and look out for your family and, better the world around you, your immediate surroundings, suddenly everything becomes different. And, that again, that's just a personal perspective. But, I know many of you out there that are listening understand this. Okay. So it's possible that we're in a sort of a mathematical reversal process, and we can call this the dark times, right? So there's different ways to look at it. A lot of it is very abstract, but it just makes sense to me. So I just felt super compelled to share this. Now, so let's continue. In mathematics, a dynamical system is time reversible if the forward evolution is 1-to-1. So that for every state, there exists a transformation or an involution. This is why your astronomical signs have a theme. This is why the stars are used to measure, monitor those themes, fit within it, so that at some point in what we call the future, a reversal may be instituted. That reversal, okay, I don't know how it affects memory. I don't know how it affects, any of the things that we would look at and say, well, if we're going through a reversal, how come I remember yesterday? So there's a lot of stuff there that I can't really touch at the moment. But this gives one-to-one mapping between the time-reversed evolution of any one state and the forward time evolution of another corresponding state, given by the operator equation listed there. Now, any time-independent structures, critical points or attractors, okay, you ask yourself what the point is of a lot of this old world infrastructure, very symmetrical, very mathematically pure, okay? I think it has something to do with this, all right? And I think that a lot of what we see as far as like sacred sites being stacked on top of each other. All right. So remember, this is just how we see those strata, is just how we see it from where we sit, interacting with this massive equation taking place all around us. So that's why they're layering sacred sites. Okay. Because that gives them the one-to-one relationship that then they can use through what process I haven't yet discovered, right? It could be CERN, right? It could be any of these things that we see happening that may be causing Mandela effects and things like this, right? So, a lot of these things kind of fall into what's the reason behind it? What's the reason behind wanting to manipulate time and this and that? I think fear is one of them, right? But I also think that perhaps it's just to find room within history to create new stories, or within time, okay, within this specific area in time that we call Earth, okay, that we clearly see there have been layers and layers of existence. We can see this. And so I think that that's the purpose. I think that, and I think that it takes a lot of energy to do these things, a lot of power. And I think that that could very well be what the purpose of any race that's on the realm at its moment is, serving a dual purpose: the existence and the power up of the reset machine, okay, of the Ouroboros effect, of the Phoenix. All right. So hopefully I haven't lost too many of you. But anyway, which the dynamics give rise must therefore be either self-symmetrical or have symmetrical images under the involution. So like I was saying, self-symmetrical, why would they put Stonehenge on top of an old Stonehenge? Why would they put modern temples on top of old temples? Why would they keep doing this? Why would they put, your new train tracks on top of ancient train tracks? And listen, there's studies, guys, for all this stuff. Go look at just anything out there on hidden history. You're going to find out, like Graham Hancock has one, and he's like, oh, well, they needed ballast in India, or like Kathmandu or something out there. They needed ballast for these train tracks that we see everywhere in the world, right? You know how much weight is in any of these coal trains going around the US, or, any of the other trains in any of the other countries? They need a lot of foundation, stable foundation underneath. Okay. And while I even was stuck on the idea that, oh, everything is a cover up, I think it's strategic for this time principle, to stack energy points upon older energy points, right? And while I do think that there is some form of a detrimental to humanity process that is being used through like modern temples such as sports stadiums and golf clubs and this and that, I think that it has to ebb the other way. It's gotten to the point where I feel that we're reaching the end of the dark time, and that's just me. And everyone out there has a different experience from when they're sitting. or where they're sitting even, and that's fine. But okay, so that's what I gathered for just from the beginning of this Wikipedia page. Okay, and when you start looking at time, and you start realizing that time interacts with everything, all physical matter is affected by what we see as time, and I'm really firmly dedicated to the concept that we are within a time bubble. You could call it the chronosphere, right? Remember, Kronos eats his children. This place consumes us. So these things aren't far fetched as some might believe. But after spending the last few years studying heavily into the occult, esoteric, hidden everything, it becomes very relevant that there's a beautiful process happening, and it's very complicated, and it begs investigation. So let's look at these. Thermodynamic processes can be reversible or irreversible, depending on change in entropy during the process. Note, however, that the fundamental laws that underlie the thermodynamic processes are all time reversible. So basically saying that the laws of this land, the physical laws of this world, are all time reversible, and laws of motion, laws of electrodynamics. Okay. So that means a rewind is always a possibility as long as the laws are followed, aren't broken, right? Is it possible that by bending these laws, time is being manipulated? Yes. Is it possible? Is it probable? Also, yes. So, all right, if one were to keep track of all the particles and all the degrees of freedom or movement, right, the many body system processes are all reversible. This is why things work in a pattern, why everything has a wheel, right? Everything has a system, a dynamic integration with everything else that follows certain laws. Okay. This is part of the purpose of physical laws. All right. And this also kind of explains why the mentality and spirituality of a given race or in a given place would also ebb and flow. All right. Much like the yugas. Okay. And we're going to look at the yuga cycle map. Okay. And just to brush back up on this, I've got a couple episodes out on the yugas. Spoke with Joseph Selby, awesome dude. Wrote the book literally on it. And okay, so yeah, let's go ahead and let's just pull the Wikipedia up, because these are the things that people look for when they want to know what something is, right? So we're going to take a look here. The yuga cycle is a cyclic age or epoch, and lasting for 4,320,000 years. So this number right off the bat, 432, the harmonic of the universe, right? So where's the map that I'm looking for? Anyway, we see this cycle happening, descending and ascending, ebbing and flowing. Okay, ebbing and flowing. Are these numbers 100% correct? Nobody knows. Okay, but it does show that we have an ascending, a descending. Okay. See, and these are all current era, so that's kind of tricky when we're dealing with the AD cycle. It's kind of hard to say, but supposedly we are on the ascending side, coming out of the Kali Yuga into the Dvapara Yuga, which is the time of energy. Okay. And this may be, yeah. Anyway, I lost track there. But so how does this all apply to the current narrative and things like this? Well, time is the big secret, everybody. Time is the thing that we're not told about, right? It really is. We're taught about a lot of other physical processes, but we're really not taught too much about time. Days move on. Past is in the past. That's it. That's all we know. Within the current vehicles that we're all in, yes, we're subject to time. I think that's part of the point of having one of these bodies is like, you're subject to the laws of this land. You're a person of the land. So, but so anyway, cyclical is what I'm getting at here. Okay. Ebb and flow, up and down, descending, ascending. Okay. Now, is it possible that the descending is like a rewind? Ascending, moving up, descending, down, ascending, descending, right? And time would be linked to all of the physical processes. So I guess what I'm getting at is if time is linked to all of the physical processes, all of the physical processes follow laws, all of these laws follow patterns, all of these patterns are secure in their mathematics and their symmetry, that means the ebb and flow can continue. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody, but that's what I'm getting at. There's a reason for the turnaround that we're seeing in mentality, spirituality, everything. Okay. And now what happens next is kind of anyone's guess, but I'm willing to bet that it will somewhat be a repetition of history, right? And, the Roman control structure doesn't like to admit, but there have been several falls of Rome, and we are in one of those now. It looks like they have more control than ever, but listen, guys, that system, that dynamic, that dark, twisted, evil system is coming down. All right. Not a lot of people understand or see it. I see it in my immediate surroundings. And that means to me that I'm going to be seeing that externally also. And we've already begun to. We see how silly these things are getting. How many more people are being put off by the current mainstream shit show, right? And there are more being put off by it every single day. Even people that were diehard, whatever, left, right, this, that, whatever topic that came through their boob tube are losing interest. It's gotten so absurd, and I think this is by design, that it's, pushing people back towards a beautiful point where they can realize themselves, where they can step out of the illusion, where they can breathe once more, right? So back to time reversibility. So this means that on the microscopic level, if one were to keep track of all the particles and degrees of freedom, the many-body system processes are all reversible. However, such analysis is beyond the capability of any human being or artificial intelligence. So they're basically saying there's no way any one of us or any human being or AI as we know them today can grasp and understand all of these dynamic concepts and analyze all of them at the same time. Okay. So could that be what you might call God? Could this process, this everything that we're a part of, right? So this is what I mean about finding the beauty in some of these things that are just mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. And so in the macroscopic properties like entropy and temperature of many body systems are only defined from the statistics of the ensembles. What does that mean? You ever wonder why your data is collected? You ever wonder why statistics are kept for every single little silly thing in the world, in society, and everything? Because it is the only way that these systems are defined, especially to us, so that we can grasp them. We have to look at the macroscopic properties. Okay. The microscopic properties, a little bit more difficult, right? To analyze. And I think that that's part of what they're doing with, the colliders and things like that, is they're trying to figure out how to view this stuff, how to look at it, possibly manipulate it, possibly create their own fashion of time reversal. And I think that this is beyond a possibility. I think it's legitimately true. So now, does that mean that any of this possibility of manipulation is good or evil? I don't know. I don't know. If you're stuck in a dualistic mindset, then I would say sometimes it's good, sometimes it's evil, depending on where we're at in the cycle, I guess. That would be my thought on it. So we talk about such macroscopic properties in thermodynamics. In certain cases, we can see the irreversibility in the time evolution of these quantities on a statistical level. Okay, so if they're able to see through thermodynamics and their calculations, they can see that these things are not reversible. So something would have to change. They're trying to make it reversible. This may be that when they are manipulating the masses for a certain effect, they could be creating the proper atmosphere, for lack of a better word, for a certain degree of reversibility. Okay. This could be what the purpose of the Men in Black are, or what we see as like aliens and stuff, like these intrusive entities, or things that come into this reality and manipulate things, push things in a certain direction. Let's say, if you've ever seen the movie The Adjustment Bureau, those guys, right? Some might call them angels, demons, such and such, blah, 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 right? Whatever you call them, these forces. Okay. I personally believe that they're like the timekeepers. Okay. But that's just my thing at the moment. Everything changes every day, everyone. So, go with the flow, I guess. So the second law of thermodynamics predicates that entropy of the entire universe must not decrease. Not because the probability of that is zero, but because it's so unlikely that it is a statistical impossibility for all practical considerations. So we're not going to look at maybe we will, because I always wondered why we called them crooks. Let's look at the Crookes fluctuation theorem, shall we? Okay, an equation in statistical mechanics relates the work done on a system during a non-equilibrium transformation to the free energy difference between the final and initial state of the transformation. So much of this may vary. No, see, and maybe this gentleman was just named after the concept of people being a crook, just so that it's like, look over here. You don't want to pay attention to crooks, especially not Gavin E. Crooks, who discovered this equation in 1998. So I mean, dude, there's some big minds working on the ways of the world, and as it stated previously, there's no way any one of us, even any one AI, can grasp the entire realm of things to make this shift. I think we can make dents. I think we could push stuff around gently a little bit, right? With some of our devices. And this might be why, there's a big statue to Lord Shiva out there in front of CERN and all this. Because it seems to me that there's some form of manipulation going on there. Some people say it's, dark matter harvesting. I think that time and dark matter are inextricably linked somehow, but, that's its own thing. So it's just kinetic theory, thermodynamics, potentials, that sort of thing. And if you can understand the forward motion of potential and the statistics, then the idea is that you can, rewind it essentially. So anything else that we need to look at on, well, all right, the scholastic. So if you want the equations, guys, here you go. All right. So we're going to look down here at the waves and optics. So time reversal method works based on the linear reciprocity, of the wave equation. Like I was saying, ebb and flow, okay? Which states that the time reverse solution of a wave equation is also a solution to the wave equation. So it solves itself forward and backwards. If that happens, what do you wind up with, everyone? loop. What we see is a loop. Okay. So thus the wave equation is symmetrical under time reversal. So the reversal of any valid solution is also a solution. The opposite will get you the same result as its opposite. How crazy is that? How weird and upside down and backwards is that? And you wonder why, like, the occult reversal principle is there. This is why. Okay. And, to kind of catch up on a lot of that, you might have to go and dig through. I'm not going to list them all, but you're going to have to look into some things that have been hidden from the masses, like Aleister Crowley's work and, the Kabbalah. And I mean, like, dude, just all of it. All of it has insight into these concepts. So does that mean it's dark or evil? Is it dark or evil that I can understand this? How? Answer me that. How? That I can understand how incredibly beautiful God is, this that can grasp and understand and create and just shift everything that we see and interact with, things we don't see, we don't even know exist, things within us we have no clue about, that there is some force. A lot of people want to say some entity or some being. Okay. I don't think that that's 100% correct. It might be, but listen, I don't know. It might be like on a macro scale. There's, my thought is like somebody sitting in the macro is me doing this right now, possibly in reverse to keep the thing flowing. So it's a super weird, super cool thing that happens. Now, okay, the wave equation symmetrical under time reversal. So the reversal of any valid solution is also a solution. Now, this means that a wave's path through space is valid when traveled in either direction. So perhaps this is where the concept of mirror world comes in. Is it possible that the original timeline or wave form or ebb or sorry, flow, right, then has a transverse, right? It has where I believe we are on the reverse side of things, which is why everything's upside down. It makes absolutely shit for sense. So, time reversal signal processing, interesting, is a process in which this property is used to reverse a received signal. The signal is then re-emitted and a temporal compression occurs, resulting in the reversal of the initial excitation waveform being played at the initial source. So, is it possible that this world is struggling to change for the better? And en masse, everything is driving towards a certain fucking beautiful outcome, right? And then these tools that are running around trying to control everything are using some form of time reversal signal processing, re-emitting the signal, creating a temporal compression. And are we within that temporal compression, aka spinning blue ball globe Earth? Hence time bubble, sphere. Just saying. Now, if this stuff comes up in a couple of years and becomes common knowledge, y'all can say you heard it here first, right? Why not? But I like to believe that this concept, these thoughts and these ideas aren't lost on all of you. And it's just so mind-blowing, so mind-blowing. And it's one of these things that, like, this kind of stuff, guys, I can't exactly like find some random person at the local, fish market or whatever, wherever people go to hang out. And when I was growing up, it was the fish market, oddly enough, in Southern California. But who do you discuss this stuff with? I don't know any freaking laureates, or you know what I mean? I'm the only scientist that I know. And people might say, well, Rand, or those on Instagram, well, you're not a scientist. Take that off of your name. The hell, I'm not a scientist. I'm down here experimenting with the freaking rest of you. We're all scientists. Okay. But you got a piece of paper from some place that said, listen, you can only know this. Nah, I'm good. I'm a scientist of the world, a scholar of the universe. And it's cool. It's fun. It's awesome. And I'm blessed and fortunate enough to be able to have these interactions vicariously through this mechanism here that is, collecting the data so that the temporal compression can be manipulated, right? Sure, there are powers and people and things taking place that have their own self-serving interests. Absolutely. When has that ever not been the case? I think what the change is the not just the frequency, but the volume of those minds, right? And as much garbage is pushed in tremendous garbage is pushed in our faces, I don't think that that's the true nature of what's going on, at least not anymore. And it may not have ever been. All right. I think we've all just been fooled, guys. But we're coming out of it. We're shaking it off. We're shaking it off. We're waking it up. All right. We're waking it up. And I don't mean we're going to go and like smoke some meth to wake up. No, we're waking it up with ease, with grace, and with just joy, and with love, and with understanding and compassion and hope, and all these beautiful things that we've been told for years that we can't have or shouldn't have. We've been taught through our music, through our media, everything. We've been taught that, everyone's a lowlife. Y'all are just consumers. We've been taught all these things, and I think it's to, in some way, shape, or form, create a manipulation that is dicking with, for lack of a better term, dicking with the ebb and flow of time, the proper ebb and flow of time. It's almost as though control is being stolen out of time by these people. There's my conspiracy theory. I didn't know I was going down that road when I started this video, but there you go. And so now we're going to jump back into the video and see what else he has to say about the plasma moon, because I think it's fascinating, and I do very much like the ideas that I'm seeing in the creator guy stuff. It's thought-provoking as all can be. It led me to this. I mean, it was like a sidebar, you know what I mean? It was a sidebar when I went over and took a look at this video again and actually listened to what the guy was saying instead of focusing every little bit of my attention on the plasma moon side of it, right? Just in the first freaking however many seconds. Oh, sorry, guys. It's going to play a freaking advertisement here. So let's skip that. Okay, good. Yeah, I know. That's why I should have it queued.
You see, here is the sea, Mr. Sanders, so calm and
all right, let's just watch.
Unchanging. And yet, it is part of my new conception about the nature of the world at this same sea. Many times in the past history of our Earth has rolled over the surfaces of the land masses, sweeping away all life and vegetation, and eventually returning again to its former bed.
This is the part of the biblical theory of the flood.
Turning again to its former bed. That which we call bedrock, right? And we're finding out in this rock, we're finding tools from ages and ages ago. It's crazy. So I mean, a lot of this stuff just falls into this time bending concept. Okay. And I do feel that that's what this Phoenix event is a form of time shift, right? And see, a lot of people are like, well, myself included initially, well, plasma event specifically means burning and melting, right? Like, while I do think that there's some form of a fire and water event that alternates accordingly, which would be opposites also, right? I think that a vast majority of what we see as far as like the expanding bricks and a lot of this like metamorphosis of the structures of old, turning them into like stone mountains, things like this, I think that has to do with the time process. And maybe at some point in the future that'll come out and be like a well-known thing for everybody. But as of right now, I can only say that based on like my research, my feeling, what that is. So.
And the theory of people of other races.
Oh, yes, this actual event, the last one, is recorded in all the sacred scriptures of all the old civilizations, from the Hindus to the Bible.
Mr. Foster, before we go on with that, you've made a number of predictions, scientific predictions, which you claim have come true. Now, what are those predictions, and how do you make this claim?
Well, they're all based on the new notion that the physical invariance principles of contemporary science are invalid. And I stated this first in a manuscript reviewed in Australia in 1954. And the validity of this statement was confirmed finally last year at Princeton, when the principle of time reversal invariance was found to be invalid.
Well, who accepts the fact that you have made
So,
these predictions?
how could they find that principle invalid? So are they saying that if that principle of time reversal invariance, meaning it can't be stopped, is invalid, does that mean that they found a way to stop that time reversal that kept happening? And is that why we're seeing less and less sort of catastrophic flip or reset? Now, in order to manipulate that, would you need to line certain things up with certain points on the earth? And is that what was happening in the past or future, however you'd like to look at it, over and over again? Right? And does that have something to do with our shifting poles? And is this an effort to prevent this Phoenix event from happening, this reversal event? I don't know if you look at it like sort of a rapture, spontaneous combustion. I mean, these unanswered things. And is this why there's no insight on many of those things? On where did all the people go? On why so many bones, right? The only thing left of people is the bones, which is, the concentrates of the earth, which are basically crystalline in form. So it seems to me that the only thing that continues to exist after one of these events, these time reversal events, is crystalline structures, right? And even those crystalline structures change form. Okay. And things that are perhaps certain types of matter, like liquids, then become crystalline structures, thereby sort of eliminating those populations. Now, that kind of falls into what we're dealing with repopulation of the world. Is there a reason for that? Yeah, so it's wild stuff. A lot of interesting thoughts here, and I'm really, really curious to know where this is going, where all this information is pointing us.
Accurately.
Well, the facts as such are undeniable and must be accepted because they're documented, and it was accepted as such at Oxford.
Now, here's the thing I'll also point out. We just did the devil's advocate thing. Is it possible that they discovered that there is a way to manipulate or change that time reversibility? But look who we're talking about. Look who we're talking about. Folks at Oxford, right? Some scientist on TV. Is this a way to get us to feel comfortable knowing that it's all right? Time reversal is not going to happen again. Or is it kind of like Kind of like that gentleman Archaics talks about on Archaics, that this thing happens. There's no stopping it. This thing happens. It's supposed to happen in 2040. That's what they say. So we'll see. I guess we'll see, right? We're definitely trending towards something. An ending, I don't think so. Maybe some form of a new beginning. Does it lead to an event like a rapture where everyone just flies away? Who knows, right? But anyway, so it's interesting. A lot of the stuff this gentleman has said just in the opening of this video brings questions to mind. Really makes you wonder.
At Tasmanian University and also at the National University. The facts as such are accepted, but the explanations and the new views as yet are not.
Do you mean to say that you reject all the basic principles of science established since Aristotle's day?
No, it does not mean that. I state and maintain that those concepts and interpretations of science, which are still based today on Aristotelian logic, have a certain purpose, but that is defined by a statement as that a spade is a spade or a fine chisel is a fine chisel. But these concepts are inadequate for a complete understanding of the real nature of the world.
How is it possible, Mr. Foster, that you as an individual can work out these theories when...
So, and I like where he's going here with this. We're gonna pop back here a couple seconds.
Of the world.
So, what he's saying, I agree with. The way it's currently put across, and this was in 1965, and imagine that nothing has changed as far as what the main group of people on this world know and believe and understand. Okay, he's saying that all of that science, all of that is just inadequate for a complete understanding of the real nature of the world. Now, that I happen to agree with. There's so much more to it. Time, different forms of energy. It's incredible. Layers and layers, octaves and octaves in all directions of all things. It's freaking amazing. All right. And we're not allowed to know that. We're just not. We're not allowed to know that. But anyway, continuing.
How is it possible, Mr. Foster, that you as an individual can work out these theories when all the other established scientists have computers and all the money of governments behind them?
Now, valid question. How do you know this? And I bet you there's possibly one or two people out there watching this going, well, how do you know this, Randy? You don't have, they've got all the money and the government's behind them. And apparently, I've never heard this before, not on my TV or on my smartphone. What do you mean? How does this feel so real to you? Well, because there's no money behind it, because there's no government behind it, because this inside information, just beautiful gnosis, has flowed to me without, for the most part, without outside influence, aside from the information that is taken from the outside. The assimilation I'm doing all on my own. Right? That's what we call the white rabbit, right? That's what we follow, our intuition, the white rabbit. We're following our string, our soul, our thread. That's just how it works. All right. And it works beautifully, in my opinion. How I can comprehend a lot of these notions when I couldn't a couple of years ago is incredible in itself. And I know that there's many of you out there that are able to comprehend and observe things at this day that you're in right now much, much deeper, more profound, and insightful than possibly where you were 4 years ago. And I think that that's a pretty common thing right about now. So if that's not beautiful and full of opportunity and hope and just freaking purpose, I don't know what is.
And yet they apparently can't.
Well, I do not claim at all that it is due to my own intellect or to my own penetration. I have been deeply interested from early youth in the real nature of the world, and I held my own views and ideas. But many years ago, about 14 years ago, when I was challenging one of the fundamental conventional principles of science, I had a definite inspiration, not knowledge as such, but an indication.
Boom. Just like I was saying. Okay. So this is what mucks a lot of people up. This, not so much knowledge, but an indication and a guidance has been demonized for many, probably hundreds of years. Legitimate personal insight and intuition has been called demonic, ungodly, taboo, wrong, right? But it's up to each of us, to understand whether it's right for us or not. And not everybody out there is going to feel comfortable, especially not at first, assimilating information on their own, especially when you've had everything handed to you in a nice, neat little package. Here you go. Your entire life. Here you go. Here you go. Oh, it's Boxing Day. Here you go. Oh, it's Christmas. Here you go. Oh, it's your birthday. Here you go. Right? Oh yeah, it's fucking Taco Tuesday. Here, have a taco. So you're handed everything. You take. You don't know to do any better. You don't know to do any different, and you don't know the different could be better.
And a guidance which I followed, on which I worked very hard, and to evolve into a new structure of understanding.
Inspirations are related to thoughts of genius. Do you think or consider yourself to be a genius?
No. I consider myself to be an ordinary, humble person who wants to serve mankind with what man has striven for from the beginning of consciousness, with truth and understanding of the world.
Boom. Mic drop. Epic flow, this guy, right? I got to say, man, a lot of this information that comes before the part about the plasma moon is just beautiful, right? It's engaging. It's glorious.
Well, now, one thing, you have a theory about the moon, and we expect to be able to get observable facts about.
And see, I think that everything up until this point, up until probably 3:33,
the moon fairly soon. What is your theory?
Okay, this is out the theory.
It is by now rather more than a theory.
Okay,
10 or 11 years ago, I stated to various scientists that the moon is not a piece of rock.
Boom. 3:33 on the clock. Drops the bomb. The moon is not a piece of a rock, but is plasma. Coincidence, everybody? What do you think? What do you guys think? Do you think that at 3 minutes and 33 seconds, there wasn't some form of a planning? Or is this just the way that the world works? Is this just the way that the system that, remember, the system that is not a human or an AI that can comprehend all of these principles and possibly has the power to institute and manipulate everything within, it's not a human and it's not an AI. What is the fear right now around the world? AI is running things, right? The fear around the world, humans are running things. Okay. But these coincidences like this, 3:33. Do any of you have insights regularly pertaining to numerical patterns, and have these been looked into? Just curious.
But it is a plasma phenomenon, cosmic plasma, and that this fact will eventually be confirmed. I made certain predictions which were already confirmed in 1958, and the situation now is coming close to a complete confirmation.
What will be the result if you're proved to be correct in your theories?
The result will be profound and decisive, because it will give proof that a complete reinvestigation of the laws of nature is necessary. Because if the moon is a plasma, no man will ever land on it. The soft landing attempts will all fail. That means that the mass of the moon is less, far less, than is currently assumed. It's in a different state of energy, and it has far less mass. That means there is no more explanation for the tides. If the moon, for example, had only 1,000th part of its current mass, then the tides would only be 2 inches high, under conventional theories instead of sometimes quoting feet. And that means that if it is proved that the moon is a plasma, then all gravitational theories are out, and a new concept of the cosmos and of its laws has to be evolved.
All right. Let's kind of recap that there. The moon is a plasma. This, I happen to believe, is legitimate. What type of a plasma? What can create a plasma? My personal opinion is time bubble. This has been my opinion for several years now. I think it is something relatively close to what we see, excuse me, on some old throwbacks like Planet of the Apes, or there was a Twilight Zone episode. It might be The Outer Limits, not really sure, where they get shot up in a rocket, right? Come back down. We think they're on another planet. They're trudging through this desert planet they think they're on. And long story short, they wind up killing each other right before one of them goes off and scouts and finds telephone wires running next to a highway down the way. So this guy killed 3 of his other buddies, and you know, turns out he was on Earth all along. So there's that, and that just comes to me from a very young age, watching that. So I mean, a lot of these things, they set themselves up within us, and it's just a matter of, are we paying any attention to ourselves or not, right? There's so many distractions out there. It's so crazy and difficult to focus on the beauty of things if you're inundated by media, okay? If you're inundated by dogma, if you're inundated by shame, right?
Aren't you being a bit adventurous, though, because you know we're going to be able to test out your theories on the moon fairly soon?
Well, not anymore. 11.
So I wonder, and sorry for pausing this through, but I wonder if the design behind the illusions that we've been being fed for the last 60 years, maybe 70, are simply to extend, and here's kind of what I think, to extend the reign, or the ownership or whatever of whatever this, some called parasitic control entity. I think it's just the program that's meant to challenge in this place, but that it's just kind of a dragging its feet. It knows it's going to be kicked to the curb, and things are going to change, and it's just grasping for control. Meanwhile, within that same infrastructure are like the sleeping agents, are like the ones who really know what's going on and know that all things will come to pass, and that greed and tyranny has a limited time in this place. If you're looking at like the Bible, they call it the short season, right? I think what we've been seeing is kind of a means to extend and create a dystopia where it is known that a utopia should stand, kind of literally.
Years ago, of course, it was rather taking a risk. I was considered a lunatic, of course, but by now the evidence, accumulated evidence, is already so much in my favor that I'm not taking any risks anymore. On the contrary, there is scientific views expressed all over the world now that the moon seems to be of a quite different nature of what was assumed.
So 1965, what all started happening? Now you see why these big culture movements, these massive distractions, free love movement, oh geez, Woodstock, festivals, everything. If you can pull the youth into your institutions, you can effectively prevent them from ever learning this type of thing. And it was done masterfully, fucking masterfully. And if it wasn't so fucked up and just rude, it would be incredibly interesting, and just kind of awe-inspiring that so much effort can be made to keep a people in the dark. And I wonder about that. I wonder what it would be like if back in the 60s we were having the awakening that we're beginning to have now, right? Because back then information transfer was a little bit different, um, and that was taken advantage of. This is when, like, oh man, all the media moguls, monsters, I mean, dude, you name it, cartoon companies, all of this stuff came about right about the time that the world was just about to be figured out. Okay.
But the Americans and Russians are thinking of landing men on it.
Well, that will never happen. Not on the moon. On Mars, on Venus, on other planets, yes. But the moon is definitely, as I assert, a plasma.
Isn't there a slight...
Now, when he mentions, Mars and Venus, I'm not sure about the crater Earth thing, about, like, extra stuff out everywhere else, or that Mars and Venus are just other craters. This gentleman here is not discounting that by saying that you could land on Mars and Venus, but he's also not really talking about are they in the sky, right? I used to feel that especially Venus, I'll see it every morning when I'm driving to work, and it's beautiful and brilliantly bright, sits really low in the sky, it just feels so close, that is it possible that it's a reflection in the mirror dome, in the time bubble? It's possible. But I always fantasized, yeah, that's a good word. I always fantasized about it being a flying city, right? And then, like, the term or the band name Stone Temple Pilots comes into play. Like, why would these cabal musicians and things name their band certain things? I mean, Tool is clearly obvious. It's definitely a tool to infiltrate the minds of our, youth and adults. But yeah, flying cities are, it just feels so right. And again, it could just be a fantasy, but I wonder, and with everything being taught to us upside down, if we were taught that, if we're being shown, oh, okay, these are on a flat earth, like on a flat ground outside of this, then what if this is going to sound crazy, man? It's just a theory. Y'all don't hate me for this, but what if we are on a flying fucking disc? Okay. And there are other flying discs within time bubbles, or as opposed to flying, floating, like in a liquid underwater, kind of like some form of jellyfish or something. Okay. And so that's just a thought. And that what we see as other planets are actually kind of other similar entities within their own time field. Okay. Whose energies are interacting with our time field. So that's the thought there.
Contradiction, you mentioned the moon and the tides, Mr. Foster, and at the earlier part of the interview you talked about the tides sweeping over the Earth.
Well, there is no contradiction there, because once the moon is proven not to be a piece of rock, but something of far less mass, and the gravitational theories are out and discarded, new concepts have to be involved which will show that the lawfulness of nature in the cosmos is identical to that in a hydrogen atom or in atomic processes. And when this is understood and worked out in full, it will be found that the physical processes of the Earth are quite different in geophysics of what is present assumed, and that lawfully in certain periods, mostly during the ice ages, which occur every 200 million years, and there is a reason for that, the axis of the Earth suddenly tilts over. And when this happens, then you get the flats of the Bible.
So something I was thinking about the axis tilting, that comes up a lot in mythology. It comes up a lot in science and this and that. We are taught about gravity. Okay, we're taught about gravity. Now, there's a reason we're taught about gravity. There's a reason that the word gravity is used. There's a reason that the word gravity is very similar, has a similar root to grave. Okay, and there's a reason that all of our temples, structures, everything everything we see that we build is essentially sitting upon a graveyard. This is proven again and again. Indian mounds, etc. Blah blah blah. We're in a graveyard, okay? Just like the Aussie song, we're all rotting bones. We're in a graveyard, blah, 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 right? So they tell us these things. But what does that mean? What is it for? And is it possible that it is so simple that it is for the experience? That this bubble that we're in, this molecule, this atom, right? If everything is the same in our cosmology as it is in our microscopic, as it is outside of us out there, then we're really within kind of a tiny point, right? And that means that next door, if we are in a molecule that we can call a galaxy, right, which is many different atoms or something, right? So that as above, so below part is incredibly mind-blowing. And if we're studying quantum physics and we're finding out that the observer effect is legitimate, why wouldn't it be legitimate in our macro world? Okay. And is it possible that the only way to keep us from interfering with anything outside of our small system here is to install a time mirror bubble, sort of keep us contained so that our consciousness is not interfering with anything else out there? So,
were recorded before.
but about gravity graveyard, we're here. This is also where the idea that zombies, the undead, we are dead come from. All of these concepts, all of these ideas kind of fall into line. Does that mean that we're just walking dead people? Not in the same way you think. What it is we are the same who had been here before, or after, time being tricky as it is. I don't so much look at it like it's a negative thing anymore, as more as it's just like a lawful process, like this man's talking about.
The tides, the ordinary everyday tides have an explanation, even if the moon had almost no mass at all, because they are field effects. They're induced by cosmic pressures which exist in the field of our solar system.
What's the benefit to mankind in your theories?
Well, the first one, and the most important I would briefly put down, is this. I think it is a new conception about the nature of the cosmic world and about the nature and the veracity of consciousness, conscience, of morality. At present, we have a glaring contradiction in the assertions of fundamental science. Scientists assert that they are completely uninhibited in their pursuit of truth, that they're completely uninhibited in their pronouncements, and that they produce for mankind, out of their knowledge or understanding, means which man can use according to his moral nature. So if the scientist produces a television set or a jet car, jet motor car, or a hydrogen bomb, it is up to the common man then to use it in a manner which he finds according to his human nature. Yet, the very same processes of dialectics of science also declare that morality, concept of man's moral nature, is an illusion, that it is merely behaviorism or something due to conditioned reflexes or to herd instinct. And this, of course, is a contradiction which must be resolved and must go out. And it will be found as a consequence.
Woo! Dang, dude, this guy's bringing that fire. Just as I was saying, imagine if everything this gentleman is saying was realized by the masses back then. And now let's put ourselves in that thought frame and say, well, how do we institute this knowing, this morality into the world that we find ourselves in? How do we do that? Where do we begin? Where do we begin to make changes and move pieces on this epic chessboard we're on? Where do we start? Randy, do you have a suggestion as to how I can start to exercise my morality and to not be a contradiction who only uses what science provides to me in the specified manner? Well, first and foremost, I would say, that thing you keep in your pocket, stop keeping it in your pocket. That thing you sit down with every day at lunch, every day around dinner time, possibly after dinner, maybe even when you get home, first thing when you sit down, you're going to turn something on. Right? What are you going to use that for? What are you going to use that device for? Are you going to just scroll through garbage that makes you feel like absolute ass? Or are you going to read a book? Look into some poetry. Check out some mathematical formula if that's your thing. Concepts of mathematics, symmetry, art. My suggestion would be reach for that which makes you smile and makes your heart glad. For me, what makes me smile and makes my heart glad is piecing this stuff together, trying and succeeding. Here's the part: you're not ever going to succeed if you don't try. If you don't put that foot forward, you're never going to get there. I learned this through my life the fucking hardest way. The hardest way. Absolute misery, many, many years. But that has been reversed. And I'm grateful for that. I'm absolutely thankful for that. And all praise to all that is the case. And I just hope the same for all of you out there. And we're getting like a couple minutes until the end of the video. But I felt that it was time to kind of sit down and do an episode for everybody that really spoke from my heart and from my mind and from what's coming up as I'm speaking, instead of going strictly off of a video. There's some really interesting points that this gentleman makes, and I appreciate these points. But I want to relate to you all that sometimes it's outside of the media, outside of these things that were shown, where we have to put the pieces together in quiet, in our own space, in our own thoughts, in our own prayers, in our own spirit, in our own essence, in our own being. We have to do this. Okay. And when I say we, for me, I'm meaning myself. But as I say we, I'm also meaning you for you.
What I had the privilege to see and to experience in my mind, that there is a moral law in the universe in which we partake and which is binding on us and which is decisive on our future. Now,
you can find more information on the moral law of the universe in Manly P. Hall's work. You take a pic of any of Manly P. Hall's information and it's good stuff. Now, is it occult in nature and very 33 Club? Sure. But I don't think that takes away from it. Same as I don't think that anything takes away from even the darkest magicians and this and that. That information is out there. Like, listen, everything that is written pen to paper and put out is put out for your, and even using this word is called taboo, for your enlightenment, for your progress. But you have to choose to open the book. You have to choose to look at it. You have to choose to get out of your own way and approach these concepts, especially if they're not familiar to you. What did I know when I first started a couple of years ago looking into Tartaria and seeing these melted buildings and these things? Something inside of me knew that it wasn't a heat melt. It was a physical change in structure. It was something different. That's all I knew. How I couldn't tell you why. I couldn't tell you how. But after looking into so much of the occult, finding these concepts, looking at it, it's beginning to make sense. And that's amazing. I never would have thought a couple of years ago that an insight that I had, like just a gut instinct about the way something is, could be explained. And furthermore, it could be explained by myself to myself by studying on my own, by doing these things, by accepting the insight as it flows to me, and by not being so critical on the who behind the pen. Now, you might ask, how are you able to become less critical about the who behind the pen? How can you not look at Aleister Crowley's work and think that he's an evil genius of some kind, and is just, this and that, pedophilia, blah blah blah, taboo, this and that, right? How can you look at that? Well, imagine you don't know anything about the man. You don't know anything about any of these people as it's been pushed to you through the media, through conspiracy theories, right? Which are all co-opted anyway. The information is what I'm looking at. Now, I can interpret the information however I like. It doesn't matter who it comes from. But when you're reading something and you're believing that the person that you're reading is dark-seated, you're going to inadvertently tell yourself that all of that information is useless. So I just, I ask that you have an open mind and keep an open mind, and don't be super critical on the way people in history are portrayed by the mechanism that writes it.
Now, in the practical aspects, when it is understood that the geophysical laws are quite different, and that this tipping over of the Earth axis has occurred often, suddenly in the past, and will occur again.
Now, we know time and space are intimately connected, and I believe that time and gravity are also connected as well. And that where there is no time, essentially, you have no gravity. Okay. And that is why we wind up with the concept and the idea of, a gravityless void. Now, however, it is not a void, it is the ether, and the ether is pregnant. So there's no gravity in the ether. That might make sense to some of you.
If the new view is elaborated, and I will not live long enough anymore to do that, it will be understood that the speed of light is not a universal constant, as it is now the foundation of science, that it is changeable. And that perhaps 50 years before the next change of axis, there will be an increase in the speed of light. And if scientists will work out what...
So, going back to one of my other videos, spinning shenanigans, go take a look at it. Turns out the Earth's core stopped spinning last year, something like that. Okay. Supposedly, also, we have the Earth is spinning faster in the news. Okay. Remember that information about the Earth spinning faster only came out after this man's video was pushed by the flat Earth folks. There's no coincidence, guys. These things are set up for you to piece together in a certain fashion. It's incredible, an incredible puzzle world we live in.
Why and how? And there will be sufficient warning that mankind can prepare itself. Instead of building atom bomb shelters and hydrogen bombs by the millions, we will build provisions of making humanity floatable and to survive.
Making humanity floatable? What? You mean we'll all float down here? Oh my gosh, everyone. Oh my gosh, what a ride this one's been.
This crisis. So it comes again to the age-old concept that truth is the guidance, the hope, and the directive of the human mind. And that man must strive to understand and to know the real nature of the world.
Yes. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more, good sir. Thank you so much for your time. Now then, well, I think that's about it for today here. I would like to ask you to go check out the YouTube if you haven't already. Here's what that's looking like so far. And it seems that I'm losing some fans as I'm putting out some deeper thoughts. And that always rings fucking true to me. And I love that. I love that. That just means that the some of you who are with me and who are paying attention are the few. And, let's be honest. Have we seen the many? Have we seen the many out there? I have. I don't really know that I want to interact too much with the many. But yeah, so I just wanted to share that with you all today. I thought I clicked that. Yeah, just wanted to share that with you all. Say hey, much love. Kind of throw that out there. Let me know what you think in the comments section, wherever you're at. If you're on the podcast, throw some comments my way. I'm eager to know if there are folks out there who are able to kind of grasp and comprehend what I'm saying. I'm looking for those people to have conversations with. If you're one of those people, please let me know on my Instagram at Random Fracts. And yeah, it's just incredible stuff, mind-blowing, incredible stuff. And I think that's going to about wrap it up today. But I just wanted to say once again, thank you so much for tuning in to the Red Thread podcast and at Random Fracts YouTube page. Have many a random, beautiful moment. And remember that we are all gorgeous, soul-filled fractals in an everlasting universe. Much love, everybody.